The Burmese Death Railway was a railway line that was built by the Japanese during World War II to support their military campaign in Burma, now known as Myanmar. The railway stretched from Thailand to Burma, cutting through dense jungle, rugged terrain and steep hills. This Anzac Day, we will look at the creation of this railway, the people who struggled to build it, and among all the heroes, a few notable men who helped many survive this awful ordeal. Thank you for joining me on this special occasion as Australians and New Zealanders take a quiet moment to remember those who gave the greatest sacrifice during times of conflict and those who returned from afar, having faced horrors that should not be faced. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe and click on the like button to help my channel grow. The Death Railway construction was carried out by prisoners of war, forced labourers and civilians, including many from Allied countries such as Britain, Australia, the United States and the Netherlands. Many of these soldiers were captured after the fall of Malaysia and Singapore, and those from the Netherlands after the Japanese invaded the Indonesian islands. The workers involved faced appalling conditions, including malnutrition, disease, and brutal treatment from the Japanese guards. It is estimated that many tens of thousands of labourers died during the construction of the railway, with many perishing from diseases such as malaria, dysentery and cholera, as well as from starvation, overwork and mistreatment. Many soldiers, unfortunately, were executed for minor infractions or for insulting the Japanese guards, or for trying to escape. The harsh conditions and high death toll gave rise to the railway's gruesome nickname, the Railway of Death. The railway was completed in 1943 and remained in operation until the end of the war. It is estimated that around 13,000 prisoners of war and 70,000 civilians were used as labourers in its construction. The railway is still in use today, with sections of it now part of the main railway network in Thailand and Burma. Many of the POWs had been captured by the Japanese during the early stages of the war and were already suffering from malnutrition and disease. They were given very little food, and what they were given was of very poor quality. They were provided with little medical care or rest, and many of them died from exhaustion, disease, or mistreatment. The local civilians who were forced to work on the railway were also subjected to harsh conditions, and many of them died as well. The construction of the railway was a tragic and brutal chapter in World War II history, and it resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of people. The Japanese military command was responsible for overseeing the POW camps during the construction of the Death Railway. The overall responsibility for the railway's construction rested with Lieutenant General Tamamuro Takuro, who was the commander of the 5th Railway Regiment of the Imperial Japanese Army. The day-to-day management of the POW camps and the railway construction was delegated to various Japanese officers and soldiers. These included Colonel Saito, who was in charge of the main camp at Kanchanburi in Thailand, and Lieutenant Colonel Tusi, who was the senior Allied officer at the Tamakan camp in Thailand. The Japanese guards who oversaw the prisoners were notorious for their brutality and cruelty, and they were responsible for the mistreatment, torture, and execution of many of the POWs. The POWs were also subjected to harsh discipline and forced to work long hours in difficult conditions, often without sufficient food, water, or medical care. Despite the horrors associated with the building of the Death Railway, engineers have marvelled at it as an accomplishment. The railway traversed more than 250 miles, including more than 600 bridges, and was built without advanced tools or transportation between the workers and the outside world. The prisoners faced not only jungle diseases and mistreatment at the hands of their guards, but also starvation. Many survived as best they could, and imprisoned artists used human hairbrushes, blood for paint, and toilet paper canvases to record their daily life.
But the triumph of the human spirit in the face of terrible adversity. Not that 100,000 people died, but that 200 or 250,000 survived. When, in all normal expectations, it wouldn't have been surprising if they practically all died. So, I temper my admiration from the engineering aspect with the knowledge of the human tragedy here. So I just resolve this now by this wonderful triumph of the human spirit.
The story of Ernest Gordon, a Scottish Army officer who was captured by the Japanese and sent to work on the Death Railway. Gordon wrote a memoir, To End All Wars, in which he recounted the story of a group of prisoners who came together to build a chapel in the middle of the jungle. The chapel became a symbol of hope and resilience for the prisoners, and it served as a reminder that they were more than just captives. They were also human beings with dignity and spirit. The story of Albert Coates, an Australian doctor who was also forced to work on the Death Railway. Coates used his medical skills to care for the sick and injured prisoners, often working long hours with limited resources. He also secretly kept a diary in which he recorded his experiences and observations. which later provided valuable insights into the conditions on the death railway. Then there is the story of Lieutenant Colonel Philip Toosey, a British officer who was the senior Allied officer at the Tamarkan camp in Thailand. Toosey was known for his leadership and compassion, and he worked tirelessly to protect his fellow prisoners from mistreatment by the Japanese guards. His story was later immortalised in the film The Bridge on the River Kwai. Behind the backs of the Japanese, Toosey did everything possible to delay and sabotage the construction without endangering his men. Refusal to work would have meant instant execution. Termites were collected in large numbers to eat the wooden structures, and the concrete was badly mixed. Toosey also helped organise a daring escape at considerable cost to himself. Notably, in the film, the fictional colonel forbids escapes. The two escaping officers had been given a month's rations, and Toosey concealed their escape for 48 hours. After a month, the two escapees were recaptured and bayoneted. Toosey was punished for concealing the escape. These stories and many others like them serve as a testament to the resilience and humanity of the prisoners who were forced to endure the horrors of the death railway. One of the most famous of these heroes is Australian Sir Edward Weary Dunlop. Sir Edward Weary Dunlop was an Australian surgeon and army officer who became famous for his leadership and bravery in the face of extreme adversity during World War II, including his role in caring for prisoners of war who were forced to work on the death railway. Dunlop, born in Victoria, Australia in 1907, studied medicine at the University of Melbourne. He joined the Australian Army Medical Corps in 1940 and served in the Middle East before being captured by the Japanese in Java in 1942. Dunlop was sent to work on the death railway, where he became known for his tireless efforts to care for the sick and injured prisoners. He worked long hours in difficult conditions, often using improvised tools and medicines to treat his patients. He also stood up to the Japanese guards and refused to let them mistreat the prisoners under his care. Dunlop's leadership and bravery earned him the respect and admiration of his fellow prisoners, who later credited him with helping them to survive the brutal conditions of the death railway. After the war, he was awarded numerous honours and accolades, including a knighthood and the Order of Australia. Dunlop continued to work as a doctor and advocate for veterans' rights throughout his life, and he is remembered as a national hero in Australia.
He was forced by the Japanese to delouse a bomb about which he knew nothing. He got blown up along with the lad who was with him. They both lost their eyes. Bill had his face quite shattered, and he lost both his hands. He was the one nearest this explosive. How he survived, I don't know, but I patched up his amputated hands and had to clean out, of course, his eye sockets and that sort of thing. And sort of thing you read about in the Middle Ages, the Mysterium days. I found that one could treat fractures by getting a clean nail and driving it through a bone and arranging some sort of rough extension.
I think it was his experience of doing hard labour that told me to go slowly and the art of letting the hammer do the work and not...
Around about the jungle under terrible conditions, and it was often very difficult to bury people in sort of sullen mud and water and so forth. And the bodies tended to rise up again in the revolt.
And he came down from Burma and Tambaya, where I was with him.
He died down
He
here.
died down here at Kanchanburi 2 days after we got back.
WWII Dunlop Park is a memorial park in Sai Yok, Kanchanburi Province, Thailand, that commemorates Sir Edward Dunlop. It was established by Kanit Wanachote, a Thai businessman in memory of Sir Edward WWII Dunlop. The park is located within the home Phu Toi Resort, which is about an hour's drive upstream from the iconic bridge on the River Kwai and 4 kilometres from Hellfire Pass Interpretive Centre. The park has a museum and art gallery that houses POW memorabilia and information about Dunlop's life and his friendship with other prisoners of war. The gallery has a large collection of Jack Chalker's drawings that show how Dunlop and his team improvised facilities to fight the horrific tropical ulcers and other diseases and injuries that plagued the prisoners. Hellfire Pass is a railway cutting on the former Burma Railway known as the Death Railway. The pass is located in the western part of Thailand in the province of Kanchanburi. It was the largest rock cutting on the railway and was particularly difficult to build due to its remoteness and the lack of proper construction tools. The tasks at hand were more difficult at Hellfire Pass than at any other point on the railway. The Hellfire Pass Memorial Museum was established in 1998 to commemorate the prisoners of war who worked on the railway, and it is a moving tribute to the prisoners who lost their lives during the construction of the railway. Lest we forget. Thank you for joining me at Reminisce with Terry on this special occasion. Please, if you've liked the video, subscribe, click the bell, and I look forward to seeing you next time.